All right, for the students in Fairfax City, we are very grateful that Kurt Dahlke accepted our invitation to our show. Kurt, welcome to my humble podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem, Kurt. Let's go back to the beginning of your life. Were you born like in a musical family at all? Were you taking piano lesson, guitar lesson when you were a little kid?
Actually, I was born in Düsseldorf, but moved very fast to the Dutch border when I was 3 months old, so I can't remember Düsseldorf in my childhood. I lived at the Dutch border. And then I came back to Düsseldorf when I was 10, near Düsseldorf. And when I was 11, I got my first instrument, which was an accordion. It was under the Christmas tree, and my parents said, yeah, why don't you try out playing some accordion? And I got accordion lessons, and I played accordion for 5 years, but then I moved to the organ. When I was 15, I had a home organ, and I was very keen of. At that time, I was listening to synthesizer music, and it was not possible to play with this organ. So I was very keen to get a synthesizer. So when I was 15, I told my parents, I'm not going with you in the holidays. This time I'm working. I want to buy a synthesizer. So what I did, I worked at Woolworth and for the holidays, and I bought my first synthesizer when I was 15. So
Wow.
this was the start, actually. And it was an Italian synthesizer, very bad model, Davoli synth. I sold it a few years later for $150 because it was so bad. But anyway, this was my first. This was my first synthesizer, and I started playing piano pretty late, when I was 17 or 18. I wanted to play piano as well, but we didn't have a piano at home, so I bought an electric piano and got lessons when I was 17 and 18. So I was playing piano really late. So I would call myself a synthesizer or even organ player and not a piano player.
Gotcha. And in high school, were you like gymnasium, they call in Germany? Were you in any bands at all, or you pretty much
not in the school? But I started my first band when I was 15. I bought the synthesizer in the summer times, and then we formed the first band together, which was kind of very much influenced by prog rock music of that time, by Emerson, Lake and Palmer, or Genesis, or all these prog rock groups I listened to at that time. And and actually the drummer of that first band I played in was Frank Samba, and he's a professor of music right now, and he's quite well-known drummer. So the guys from the band, they all made their way in music, I would say.
Wow, good for you. Well, good for you. What kind of music were you listening at the time when you were 16, 17?
So, as I told you, first thing I was very much into prog rock, and
so that kind of stuff,
and then I moved pretty fast into jazz. I was listening to jazz a lot, and there was a kind of a key moment. I think it was in '77 when I went to a concert in Wuppertal with this typical ECM jazz, and they all played sheet music and played quite bad, and I was frustrated about the whole situation. And the next day I went to a concert in Düsseldorf, which was a punk concert, and then I changed my musical influences from one day to the other, because I said, this is fresh, this is new, this is something which has nothing to do with formalism and playing the right scales at the right moment. This has something to do with energy and has something to do with how you see the world and how you express what you think about the world. It was at that time there was a club in Düsseldorf called Ratinger Hof, which was really famous for starting the new wave in Germany. All the bands formed there, like Mittagspause was one of these bands, and Mail is another band, and they were actually not musicians, they were artists, but they wanted to express themselves through music, and this is influenced me a lot, and so I changed my musical taste, I would say, from more or less from one day to the other. I've started to listen to new wave bands and like for American bands like The Residents, Chrome,
Yeah,
English bands like Wire, and so it was
gotcha.
totally different from one day to the other.
Gotcha. And then, and then obviously down the road, you were commissioned by the Goethe Institute for a workshop concert, and that's a big deal, for somebody who started late in life, and you say 17, 18, with a very precarious organ, and then synthesize it to do what you have done. Good for you, man. Good.
Yeah, actually, my work with the Goethe-Institut first it started in the 80s when I was invited with my group Der Plan
Yeah,
to the former Czech Republic,
I see.
and um, which was behind the Iron Curtain, and because of our also quite political impact on what we did there and how we behaved there, we went on I would say, on a blacklist. Yeah, we were not invited by the Goethe Institute since 2020. So it took us 40 years to be invited by the Goethe Institute again. But as a solo artist, I did quite a lot with the Goethe Institute in the 90s, and
Yeah,
I traveled a lot. I was in North America, South America, in Africa, in Asia. So I was traveled a lot by the commission of the Goethe Institute, yes.
yeah. Good
And
for you.
actually, the last thing I did with the Goethe Institute, with the the guy who was the chef of the cultural department, he called me and said, "Well, you worked with the Goethe Institute now for over 10 years. Would you can you do something for me? I did so much for you. Can you do something for me?" And I said, "Sure. What would you like to do?" This was 2002, and he said, "Well, as you know, the Taliban are gone from Afghanistan, and we want to build up the music education again in Kabul. Would you do that?" So I was the one who built up the Institute of Learning Music in Kabul, and at 2002, where it was pretty rough times there, yeah,
Yeah,
and which was a very interesting job. And what happened there was, in this institute, we built it up with guys who came back from their time when they were not allowed in Kabul. They came back from Pakistan, or they came back from Russia to Kabul, making music there, and there were no women allowed in the institute. And I traveled there with two friends, and one is Saskia von Klitzing. She's a drummer, and she was the only woman in the whole institute, and there were some girls as translator and some girls who made tea for us, and they wanted to learn music as well. And the men were totally strictly against it. They said, "No, no, no, you're not allowed to make music." And so she said, "I don't care," and locked the door and teach these girls music.
that's good.
And and we did a 7-inch single out of that project. It's called the Boca Band. because these girls, they didn't want to show their faces in public because they got in trouble. So they said, we said, why don't you hide under the burqa? You have to wear the burqa anyway on the streets. So they all three went under the burqa and performed the song for the video. And this video at 2002, I mean, internet was not so big as now, went totally viral. We got we got offers from all Canadian, American, Indian radio and TV stations. The Boca band has to perform here, has to perform there, and the girls said, no, 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 we don't want to. And until today, I mean, this is over 20 years ago, it's still, we got calls from overseas, can the Boca band perform? Yeah? Because it's so amazing that an all-girl band from Afghanistan was happening at that time. But a few months later, a few weeks later, actually, when the single came out, I got a call from the Goethe-Institut, and they said, I got a call from the foreign minister of Germany, and we have to stop the campaign. He got a call from Kabul, from the foreign minister from Afghanistan, and they said, we are making one step too far.
Wow.
No all-girl band from Kabul, please. And so we stopped the promotion and all this stuff. But anyway, a few years later, all came back, and as I told you, since today we get calls from all over the world if the Boca band is still available.
Good. Wow. Almost 20. Good for you. Well, that was at the time revolutionary. I read somewhere that you on a stage, you with your computer and synthesizer hardware, you do movement of the pressure on hands. I think there are two controllers that were built by Don Buchla, right? Which is
right.
Very he was a very, very famous guy and pioneer and build an instrument at the time and so on and so forth. So
yeah, I know. I bought the first instrument from Don in '91. It was called Thunder, which measures impact pressure and position of the hands, and which is very fun to play, but it's not very fun for the audience because they look at the stage and see.
I think you got frozen for a minute. All right, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so I in '91 I bought this instrument from Don called Thunder, and actually 2 years later, I think '92 or '93, I was in San Francisco and asked him about lightning. And lightning is an instrument where you have two sticks in your hand, and you have in front of you an infrared monitor which shows you where you are in the air, and you have in each hand you have 8 zones, and you can program gestures in this zone. So you can say every time I make this is happening, or you can make controllers with it, and it's for me a perfect instrument. I played since then.
Good for you, man. Is it difficult to learn?
No, it's not difficult to learn. Everybody can play it, but it's difficult to program because it has its own programming language, and you have to find your way through this programming language. I couple it with Max MSP, so it makes it a little bit easier for me because I'm better in Max than I'm in Donald's world of programming.
Yeah. At the time, also, I think later on, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Moog, right? Moog synthesizer became very popular as well, right?
Yeah,
Or,
that's the old saying, East Coast against West Coast. Yeah,
uh,
it's one
uh,
is the
yeah,
subductive synthesis, which is the East Coast, which is Robert Moog, and
yeah,
the West Coast is Donald Buchla, who is Buchla. He's doing everything with frequency modulation and not with filter. Not You are not filtering the overtones.
yeah,
Um, um, you work with modulations of the frequency. So
yeah.
it's kind of two different philosophies of synthesized
Yeah,
sounds.
I remember my first exposure to that type of music were two records. Probably early Tangerine Dream,
Yeah,
and then Wendy Carlos,
I see. Switch
and
from back.
Switch on Back.
Hmm.
Of course, I
Yeah,
have
which
like
is
a, it's, was, I say, how they make this music? Of course, I was a young kid in South America, I was born in Chile, and I was listening to stuff, say, how they make that kind of music, no internet, obviously no cell phone. So with buying vinyl, say how in the world they can make this kind of music. So
actually my first record with synthesized music was from Kinsley, Popcorn.
uh,
Which is
yes, yes,
69. This was my first one.
I got it, I
And
got it,
I
got
was
it.
very much into, as I told you, I was very much into synthesizer. I
Yeah,
wanted to have a synthesizer when even when I was a kid. I thought this is the future.
gotcha. Good for you. How when Kraftwerk began that popular? Of course, Tangier, we talked before, right? So in Germany, many people play electronic music, and I wonder why. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but somehow I feel that Berlin is the capital of electronic music. But why electronic music? Why people there in Germany, a lot of them began playing that type of music? What's your opinion of that? Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't know. I don't know. Well, it's for me. It's a little bit divided. It's divided
yeah,
in so-called the Berlin School, yeah, which
yeah,
is like
Berlin
the
school music, yeah,
Konrad Schnitzler, the
yeah,
Berlin School with Tangerine Dream, with
yeah,
all these groups which came from Berlin, and there's also West German influence, more or less from Düsseldorf, like Kraftwerk and Neue,
yeah,
and which is more coming out of krautrock, I would say.
yeah.
They mixed in the beginning, like Kraftwerk. They mixed even guitar and drums with the first synthesizers. It was more coming from krautrock and not so much from pure electronics.
I see. That's a good explanation. Yeah. I told you before that some of my heroes have been Kurt Dream, Klaus Schulze, Peter Bowman,
Yeah.
Manuel Goshin, and all these great people. Great music. And in 1978, you were founded the band called D.A.F, right? What was the motivation of creating that particular band?
Yeah, actually in 77, I would say, late
Yeah,
77, I met some people in Wuppertal, and I was traveling around with a small piano, with a mobile piano, and I played in yeah, coffee shops just for just for
to, to make a little bit of
busking.
money. Yeah, that's right, basket. Exactly right. Yeah.
And in that certain coffee shop, there was they only sold tea at the time, so it was a tea shop. And in the back, there were two musicians playing. One was playing bass, and the other on guitar. And I became friends, and since then, we are friends, and we formed a band. At that
Yeah.
time, it was called You, the band. And we were looking for a drummer and for some other musicians joining us. And we met these two guys which came from the music school in Graz, from the university in Graz. One was a drummer, Robert Girl, and the other one was a sax player at that time, Chris Haas. And we formed the band. And then we said, we need a new name. And the first name when we were quintet, we called ourselves Captain Babette. And then Chrysler went away, we were four, and then we formed the band called Deutsch-Amerikanische Freundschaft, D.A.F.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the beginning, we played more or less pop music with a influence of rock, but not, for my taste, not very interesting anymore. But then, as I told you, the whole new wave movement came, and we heard these bands coming from England, 77, 78, like Wire and all this, or Perry Ubu from the United States, and these very interesting new sounds. And we said we have to change our sound as well. And in that band, then we played two sets when we had concerts. The first set was our normal, this pop music like thing, and the second set we played this very hard new wave style, very stylish stuff. And at that time, I have to tell you, most of the people left. Yeah, they
At the
didn't like it.
time.
And we went with the tape. We made recordings. We went with the tape to record companies, and we said that's the new thing, and blah blah blah, and nobody wanted us. Nobody wanted to
Oh,
sign us. We were really good. I mean, but the musical taste at that time was totally different. So we decided,
yes.
oh, there's this new thing from England coming called independent music. And I went to the bank and said, I want a loan, I want a credit. And he said, what can you offer? And I said, I have a good car. That's the only thing which is worth some money. He said, okay, I give you 3,000 mark, Deutschmark. And from that money, we made the first record of the A.F. And we were very early in the time of the independent movement. So it was early 79. It was quite. So we were one of the first German groups making an independent record. And this was selling really well. So we went to England with a car full of record and sold it to Rough Trade and other distributors. And 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, they're all sold. Come again with 1,000 records. So it went. This was really successful, the whole thing. And so then I started with two friends, with Moritz and Frank. We started our own label called Attack, which is a short form of Art Attack. But
Right.
the children around the gallery, which was called Art Attack, they said they couldn't speak Art Attack. They said, "Ah, that's Art Attack, Art Attack." So we called our label Art Attack.
Okay,
And
gotcha. Yeah.
and since then we produced over 150 records. So it's
Oh, amazing. Good for you, man. Good for you. Good
and
for
the
you.
first one actually was D.A.F. Yeah, and the D.A.F., as you know, broke up. They
Yep.
went to England without me, but Chrysler came back in the band, and they went to London, and they were quite successful there. And then the bass player and Chrysler left, and then mm, the guitar player left, so there were only two left, and they were really successful in Germany. They made a few golden records, and produced quite a lot of albums, which are really successful.
Gotcha. Good for you. Good for you. Happy for you, man. And then, of course, and then you end up leaving, right? After, well, you stay with their plan until 1992, and then another band in 1980s. And then from the same year, you went on your own as Pyrolator, right?
Yeah, actually, when the Duff record was selling well, and they went to England, I said, nothing holds me back. I make my own solo record. So
Sure.
at that time, I lived in Wuppertal, and I made my first solo record called Inland, which is pretty experimental and no pop at all. It's kind of harsh electronics, and yeah, well. and so it went on. So I always played with groups or produced groups, and still continuing with my solo work.
How difficult in general, Kurt, is to make a living in the electronic music, which is a small niche, but a lot of people do music for commercial, for TV, for documentaries, and so on and so forth. But is it difficult to make a living in your
Yes,
world?
sure. Yes, sure.
Yeah,
It's until the 90s, I would say until the late 90s. The 90s were the so-called golden age because this CD compact disc came and we sold a
yes,
lot of compact discs, and uh, we built up our own studio and stuff. And so this was no problem. But since the time of MP3 and since the time of now it's streaming,
yeah,
you can't live from records anymore.
yeah,
It's more or less what you. It was before, like you made a you played live to sell your records, but now you make records to play live.
that's
So
right.
it's now it's the other way around. So it's quite hard to make a living, but if you play live a lot, it works.
Yeah,
I have to do many different things. I can't concentrate on this is my solo work and I want to live from that. That's not possible. So I have to do a lot of other stuff. I'm producing as well. I'm
yeah,
mixing. I'm in as well. I'm mastering. I'm a mastering engineer, and I do works for installations, a huge installation, a big installation just finished in Essen, which I did in the museum. It's a it was a 4 channel installation for a ballet called Lunar Cycle. Maybe you can look it up. It's at Folkwang Museum in Essen.
yeah. We'll check it out. Yeah,
And it was a ballet for 28 days. So a 28-day composition. This quite huge work, and so I'm making this and that. Oh,
in order to keep on. Yeah,
yeah,
to keep on. Yeah, I got it. Good, good. Yeah, I know that nowadays. Well, at least Badcam it's kind of fair for you guys because I think they only take 10%, the 90% go to the musician. But in a streaming service like Spotify, many other, you need to have like a million hits to get a $10 to get a cup of coffee or something, which is crazy.
yeah, which
It's a
is crazy. Yeah,
ripoff. It's a
yeah, yeah,
ripoff.
yeah,
You
it
know,
is.
a lot of people in the
But
world.
you can't avoid it. I mean, if you're not on streaming services, people won't listen to your music at all.
That's right.
So it's better to be there that people might buy a record or CD. Actually, the thing which is selling quite well is vinyl,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
because to press a vinyl record is still, I would say, it's still like 14, 15 euro to make a record
yeah,
altogether, and you can sell it for 24, 25, 26. Yeah,
yeah,
so that's the way you can make money out of records.
yeah.
But
When you
even CD, nobody's buying CDs anymore.
yeah, when you tour, you always have like a merchandise like vinyl and T-shirt and stuff that people can buy and that sort of thing.
Right, right. If
Yeah,
I'm
just
playing
to,
overseas, it's not possible because of the weight of the vinyl. But I
that's right.
always have some CDs with me. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when you listen when you are in Germany, of course, in 1979 you end up releasing Inland, right? That was your
Yeah,
first
it was
album,
my
and
first solo.
at the surprise all over. And then a couple years later, in 81, you did Osland, right?
Right.
That's pretty good, right? And then, so at the time, so you mentioned something very interesting. At the time, it was possible to make a living, right, as a musician, but later on, you mentioned something with MP3, people, ripping a CD and put into a website somewhere where everybody can download the stuff. Of course, you were not making any money. A lot of people in the world think that music should be free, or like I don't know why they don't think about cars should be free or books should be free, but somehow they think, hey, you create a record, hey, put it on where somewhere, and everybody will get a copy, and of course, you will not get any money. I don't understand that mentality. As if
Mm.
they think the restaurant should be free or this should be free. I mean,
Mm.
somebody to pay for it, right? You spend a year or two of your life to create a record, you should be getting paid for this stuff, right? Why me as a consumer will want to get a record for Kurt for free, right? So I don't understand. Yeah,
Yeah, times are changing.
yeah, and I don't know. In 1987, I think down the road you were commissioned for the German Olympic Pavilion for 1988
Yeah,
Seoul,
right.
right? Wow, that was a big deal. How that came about?
Well, there was a project it's actually, I think, the most expensive thing the Goethe-Institute ever did was to build a house in Seoul, in the park, made of glass and steel. And because they made a research and they found out at that time in 88 or 87, discotheques in Seoul were just picking up places for prostitutes, or most of them. It was not a culture, not there was not a dance culture in the disco field. So they decided to make uh, an impact on the youth culture and called the whole thing the Kunstdisco, the art disco. And they invited 26 German artists, and they built the whole house, they built the whole stage and a restaurant and everything, and made through the Olympic Games, they made this discotheque, which was amazing because every night it was totally packed and with very young people. And the police found out, and people under 18 were not allowed to stay, I think, more than 10 p.m. So they came in 10 p.m., controlled the age of the people, and then the thing was half empty. So the Germans, they decided, well, we have to find a solution, and but it was no problem because all the young people came back during the night, where no police was controlling anymore. So the discotheque itself was a huge success. People danced through the night. And actually, the whole thing was, after the Olympic Games, the whole thing was built down, but it's still existing. So they built it up on a different place. The place is still existing. So the German art disco from 88 is still standing in Seoul somewhere in a park.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Um, Yeah, good that the German did that. And then later on in 2011, you end up releasing an album that for I think I think it's called Business Bureau V, right?
Right?
And why switching record label if you don't mind going for one to the other? It was a good because Bureau V began at the time in probably 20 years ago, became very popular. A lot of people like buy a lot of electronic music, buy a lot of vinyl, right? And then that particular record label is very good, well managed. They have a lot of great musicians under the record label.
Yeah. To make a record label, this is a lot of work. I want to concentrate more on making music and not to make a record label.
Yeah,
At the high time of Attack, we had 7 people working there in the distribution, in the label, in the promotion,
I got
and
it.
and in the at that time, we thought we might even close our studio if it's not bringing back the money we put in every month. We can do it. And then there came the offer from Bureau B to re-release old records of our label on their
I
label.
see. I see. I see.
And we were very happy about that because we were not able to re-release all these albums on our own, and we couldn't make the promotion as well. So, and then as a second step, they said, "Why don't you make your new records on our label as well?" So we made a record with their plan. We made I made two albums as my solo work on a Pyrolator, and um, and other artists from our label from Atatak went to Bureau B because they concentrate on making a label. They're not musicians. They are,
Gotcha.
but they concentrate on making the label and not. We were not able to do that anymore.
I got you. I got you. I was
Actually,
this.
there will be one exception. The exception is we did a project last year with their plan um, to make a bar, a tiki bar, and play the old songs of their plan, the very first old songs of their plan in a style of 50th jazz musicians.
Really?
And yeah, like bar music from the 50s. We are very big fans of Martin Denny, for instance,
Yeah.
and or Les Baxter and stuff. And we played the old songs of their plan in that style. And we decided now to bring this record out on Atatak again and make our own pressing and our own distribution, because it will sell not very much, I guess, and it's not so interesting for Bureau B, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. B.R.B. I don't know, have been growing, and I always get email on a monthly basis. We have an upcoming artist and this and that. So I think they do very well.
Yeah, I
they're
think
able
so.
to afford, right? So
Do you know this new record from Die Wilde Jagd? He made a record with a Metropole Orchestra from this famous Amsterdam symphony orchestra. It's
yeah, no, really,
amazing
I need to
record. You
check it
should
out.
listen. Go to the YouTube and listen to that. It's a 12-minute song from this album on YouTube.
Yeah,
The orchestra plays it.
yeah,
Amazing stuff. Amazing.
yeah.
I like
I
this.
remember that
I like what the label is doing anyway.
yeah, I remember because I got an email from them last week or so that they are releasing the latest album from Peter Bowman
Yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah,
record
yeah.
label, on the big record. So, every 2 weeks, there's an email. This is coming. This is coming. So I'm always check it out, and then they have some sample, and then when I like the music, I buy the record and stuff like that. Yeah, Peter Bowman was. I'm surprised that he's releasing music because he disappeared for many many years.
Right,
He went to California, and at
right.
the time they start, created his record label, private music, and then all of a sudden that didn't work out. It disappeared. I don't know exactly what it was doing. And then all of a sudden, when I got that email from, hey, Peter Bowman's released a new record, and so forth, everybody was going crazy, right? So
Mhm.
great, great musician, of course. And are you in touch with him or not? No,
No, no, no, no.
no, no, no. Yeah, I think he's living in San Francisco, one of the cities here in California.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know exactly what exactly to. You end up releasing. I told you before. I end up buying a couple of the records from Bandcamp. Niemann's Land is an excellent album. It's very very good, man. Yeah. How was the
Yeah,
motivation?
I was. It started with two things. The one thing was I was
Yeah.
invited to do an album with to contribute to an album where all these old crowd musicians playing together with handicapped people. It's called Station 17. It's also on Bureau B. And I was invited for this production. And I saw the producer, which I really like a lot, which is Schneider TM, Dirk Dresselhaus. He's excellent musician, excellent. He had a little modular system there. It was quite small, and he did on the spot. He did some grooves with it, and I was totally fascinated. I said, "That's amazing. I have to have a thing like that." And so this was one of the motivations, and I was getting into modular systems again. I actually had during the 90s I sold a lot of my synthesizers because as you say, everything is in the box right now. Everything is in the computer. I don't need all the synthesizers anymore. But I found out this is quite a mistake. It's so much more possible with outboard, with physical synthesizers than it is with synthesizers within the computer. So I built it up. I,
Yeah, I can see it on the back, right? Yeah, yeah,
my synthesizer world is around me.
yeah.
I
Gotcha.
have a huge modular system right now, and this was my
Okay,
first, actually my first record doing with a modular system.
got
And
it,
I
got it,
wanted
got it.
to. My aim was to make a record with a modular system and use the computer only as a recording device and not as a creative device anymore.
Yeah,
And
I got it. Yeah,
Niemandsland was actually the first one, the first record out of this.
yeah. It's a very good album. Were you able to sell enough units,
Uh,
CDs,
yeah,
vinyl?
as I told you, you can't sell so many albums anymore.
Yeah,
It's
limited, right? So,
yeah, it's limited.
but at least people all over the world can buy the MP3s, right? And without
Sure.
having a CD or a binder that you need to ship that somewhere in the world for $7 or $8, whatever it is.
Mm.
They can buy an MP3 and pay you and make a little bit of money. At least it's a very good album, right? And I really enjoy. And of course, the other one, the Endless Christmas Carol. Uh, Feel free to. I think you wrote the music for an auditorium. I think it was a subway entry in
Right.
Dusseldorf, Germany, right?
Yeah, it's a subway, it's a whole subway line where the city
Yeah,
of Düsseldorf decided to work together with artists, and
yeah,
every subway station is a different artist is doing actually is providing an art piece for that. And the entry of the station where I'm doing is Königsallee, is the Fifth Avenue of Düsseldorf.
yeah.
It's a posh street, and you go into the station, and it's a long escalator.
Going down. Yeah,
It goes
gotcha.
going down actually two floors,
Got it.
and it's 48 speakers in the ceiling. And I composed, or I wrote with Max MSP. I wrote a software where the sounds are moving around the people. So somebody is stepping on the escalator. Sometimes it follows him. Sometimes it's flying over him, and the whole thing. And the curator of this station, he asked me, well, we want to do something special for Christmas. Would you like to do a composition for Christmas? I said, well, I will. And I did a composition which is the Endless Christmas Carol, which is one very traditional, more or less Baroque piece of synthesizer music,
Yeah.
and which was for me very suitable for the people who do their Christmas shopping on this posh street. And they go in, and the sound is around them, and it's actually the thing you mentioning now is a stereo version of it. It's not the 48 channels,
I
but
see. I see.
it's a stereo version, but it's still quite nice for Christmas, I would say.
Okay. Do you still play that during Christmas or no? This,
Yeah, they still play it on Christmas.
yeah.
Every
Good for
Christmas they
you.
have it on.
They have it on, and then during the year,
Yeah, during the year, there's different artists, and
this different actor, right?
most of the work I was doing, but it's now I would say for 8 years now, and the curator, he's now choosing different artists who work for like 3 months or 4 months, and
Yeah.
provide the sound for this.
Boys, I hope that they were sending you a check every Christmas.
No,
It was one amount and that's it, and go
it's
away.
like the old days of Mozart. You get paid for music once, and then never
That,
again.
that you never hear of them again. Yeah, yeah. Wow, interesting. But it will be good to, if you go with the family or friends, and you go in around Christmas time, and go to Düsseldorf and take the elevator and the subway. Say, hey, look,
Actually, there's a nice thing in Düsseldorf. It's a music guide, a guy
I see.
who offers the history of Düsseldorf music for
Or
tourists.
correct.
And
Yeah, that
it's
what I was
very
thinking.
successful. He does it every 2 weeks, and the whole thing is booked out for a month.
Wow.
And he goes, for instance, he goes to the Robert Schumann University, which is the famous composer. And then he goes to Mintropstraße to Kraftwerk Studio. And he gets to all these places in Düsseldorf with the people. And
Yeah.
he has a little ghetto blaster with him and plays them the music which was produced here and there. So on
Wow.
this place, this record from Neu was made, and here the Kraftwerk record, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And he always goes to this entrance to the subway as well, and so it's one part of the guide through the Düsseldorf music scene.
Good for you, man. I saw Kraftwerk a couple of weeks ago here
Yeah,
in Washington D.C. They
yeah,
sound very, very good. They play Autobahn and all
yeah,
the record. They're still very good, and it was
yeah,
full pack. You
yeah.
know.
It is. They did a
Yeah.
very successful
Yeah.
U.S. tour. Mhm.
Yeah. They do very, very, very well every year here. They tour every 2 years here. And what is coming up for you? You have any other plan or new music? Are you touring?
Well, my big project, as I told you, the ballet music is now over. My
Yeah.
tour with I'm playing in a rock group as well, Fehlfarben. This tour is over since 2 weeks, so this is over. Next thing I'm looking forward is I'm doing a few solo concerts,
Yeah.
and I'm I'm producing albums, and then next step is there's an album coming out of Der Plan, as I told you, on
Yeah.
Atatak,
Yeah.
which is the bar music, playing Der Plan songs in a bar music style.
Yeah.
And as well, I have a friend who is a record collector, and he's a owner of a second-hand record store. And I made two albums with him together, and now the third one is ready, which is purely he's which is kind of our concept is he makes a demo, comes to me, and with it 2 or 3 hours we try to finish the song. So it's quick made.
Yeah.
The whole
Wow.
the whole project is like try to finish an album. If there are 12 songs, finish it in 12 days, and
That's
so
it.
everything is done. So it's a kind of a very quick thing. Well, it's up there. It's called Dahlke Väterlein. So we did now our third album, which is coming out in June.
Yeah. And he ended up selling the record on the record shop, and record shop he owns. Wow.
Yes, sure. He's selling the record there and on Bandcamp
Bandcamp
there.
as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for you, man. Good for you, man. You have done very well for you, man. It was good for you, man. I really like your music, and feel free to mention where the people all over the world can buy your music. Feel free to mention the. I will put the link to Bandcamp, but beside Bandcamp, you have another website where people can buy the music, or
Yeah, Bureau B is the
okay,
one
yeah, of
because
course, yeah,
they have a store, mail order store, which is much cheaper than the records when you buy them in shops.
okay, yeah. I will make sure.
Normally in shops, I was in rough trade shop here in Berlin, and they sell the new vinyl albums for 34 euros, which I think it's
Another
very
money.
expensive, very
Yeah,
expensive. And if you buy them from Bureau B directly, it's 16 or 18. Yeah, it's not half, but it's two-thirds of that.
yeah. Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah,
Especially if you buy, more than one, right? So you can
yeah,
you can
yeah.
save, you can buy twice as well. It was very nice talking to you, Kurt. Good luck to you. I hope that we'll continue by your music, and keep me posted your new releases so we can do a follow-up interview
Yeah, great.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to help, and I really enjoy both records that I ended up buying yesterday. They're very good, man.
Thank you.
No problem. And of course, we say in Germany, vielen Dank.
Ja, vielen Dank auch
Thank you
an
very much. I
Sie.
appreciate it.
Ja, bye bye.
Very nice. Good luck.